I want to get into some of the deeper philosophical questions about decentralization and governance, but let's start with something cruder. What are the challenges of building out infrastructure in the space during a downturn and how that sort of saps enthusiasm, saps funding, things like that?
Hey, Joe. It's, to be honest, for us at Parity Technologies, it's not a huge issue because we're basically venture backed, so the market doesn't have much of an effect to us in the day-to-day. In some sense, it's actually better when there's a fairly substantial interest cycle is going. We find there's quite a lot of noise. It's not always so easy to tell between the people that sort of just want to be in the space and the people that are sort of truly down for the technology.
Given that being said, one of the main drivers of Ethereum, or Ether, the price rise, and Ethereum, the platform, last year was really the surge of ICOs and the idea that tokens could be built upon the technology. Those have really collapsed and you don't hear much about them these days. What is going to revive people's interest, in your view, in the types of things that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, ICOs were definitely the first kind of prominent use case, let's say. I don't think that's over yet. So I think ICOs still have a while to run. I think that there's going to be a lot of, let's say, evolution of ICOs down the line, but the basic idea of having an open market, so to speak, and joining in and crowdfunding projects is not something that's going to go away. I think we're just going to see a lot more innovation in terms of managing which projects are the ones that get the most interest, things like reputation systems, but also managing things like the rights of the token holders versus the obligations of those that are actually selling them the tokens in the first place.
Some of what's been hindering the price of cryptocurrencies across the board, Gavin, has been the ability to scale, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be Ether, and whether we can start to have the number of transactions that we see on Visa and MasterCard. This is something that you're looking at, in particularly the interoperability of various blockchains. But how are you seeing the scaling question being tackled, and when might we see some sort of answer?
Yeah, it's a good one. The scaling is definitely something that people have been working on for some time now. There's been a lot of thinking going on about it, and we're starting to see some of the first bits of innovation. So Ethereum certainly is trying to push forward in the scaling, sort of solution space, as it were, with this notion of sharding, which is something that's very common in databases, where basically you can split up the blockchain into separate bits so that they can all get processed in parallel. Parity is also working on Polkadot as well as Ethereum. Polkadot really is a platform that brings scaling as its center point. The idea there is that the individual shards, so to speak, the individual sort of pieces of Polkadot can themselves be very specific to the domain or the context that they operate in. So they can all sort of proceed together, and there's no need to sort of process everything in line as there is in traditional blockchain designs like Ethereum and Bitcoin.